Last Monday, the Artemis 1 mission Orion spacecraft arrived at the moon after an approximately 5-day journey, having launched from Pad 39B at Kennedy Space Center. Uh, Orion swung around the moon, and what we're seeing now is a slightly sped up view from the live stream of when Orion was about to pass beyond the far side of the moon. Uh, and so what we're seeing is, you could call it Earth set. It is the setting of the Earth from the perspective of the Orion spacecraft. And of course, without a direct line of sight to the Earth, and without any relay satellites that can relay the signal from Orion to the Earth. Yep, and that was it. So if we go back, let's go back a few frames. There. Without any satellites that can relay the signal from Orion to the Earth, there's no way for Orion to communicate its video or images or data to the Earth when it's on the far side of the moon. What it has to do is cache all of that, or just gather it together, save it, and then transmit it once it is within line of sight of the Earth. So, so Artemis did swing around the backside of the moon. Unfortunately, it's because it was out of contact at the time of its closest approach, which was something like 80 miles from the surface of the moon, and during its flyby burn, we did not get live views during the closest approach because it was out of sight on the far side of the moon. But it has since, a short time later, it emerged from the other side of the moon. We were able to communicate with it again, and we've been tracking it ever since. Now, there hasn't been a lot of coverage by NASA of this very important mission, which I discussed a little bit last week, which is puzzling because of the importance, the historic nature, and the expense of this mission. But nonetheless, it is happening. We are about midway through the mission. So Artemis is proceeding, and feel free to check the Artemis, or NASA's Artemis 1 website for the latest updates, images. There is a live tracker out there if you want. I mean, well, there are live trackers. There's a live tracker website, as well as live views from the spacecraft as it circles around the moon. Now, again, it's not in a close, tight orbit around the moon. It's in a distant orbit that brings it up to 40,000 kilometers past the moon, and then close in for its flyby. Yeah, there we have the current status of Artemis, and there are a couple of Artemis events coming up later this week, which I'll get to in that part of the broadcast. Looking ahead to this week, on Monday, November 28th at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC, is an Artemis 1 mission status briefing to discuss the Orion spacecraft's current status at the midpoint of the mission. Now, this is being broadcast by NASA. I will have a copy for you here on Raw Space, so that you can engage in chat with your favorite peeps. Wednesday, November 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC, is the second of 2 Artemis 1 mission updates this week. It's a preview of the upcoming lunar escape maneuver and the return trip and splashdown.